The amazing true stories of errors and omissions. In this edition, failure to follow underwriting guidelines. Not long ago, an agent bound a commercial automobile policy. At the inception of the policy, the customer, a self-employed farmer, told the agent that the vehicle and trailer would be used to deliver livestock from his farm in Nebraska to various farms across state lines. The agent bound a commercial auto policy for the farmer without reading the underwriting guidelines. The guidelines clearly stated that animal carriers, horse vans, and livestock trailers were ineligible risks. And that's not all. Vehicles that travel outside a 500-mile radius were also ineligible. Unfortunately for the agent, it was evident that the farmer had been clear about his occupation and how he used his vehicle for business. And you guessed it. Several months later, the farmer's truck and trailer rolled off the side of the road. Luckily, he had dropped all of his animals off, and there were no injuries to man or beast. Sadly, the same could not be said for the truck and trailer, which were completely wrecked. The ugly truth was quickly revealed as the claim investigation by the insurance company identified that the risk did not meet the underwriting guidelines. The insurance company paid for the loss and then made an E&O claim against the agent for the damages paid. The loss under the agent's E&O policy was $20,000. In another example, an agent wrote a general liability policy for a general contractor who also did roofing work. Had the agent read the carrier's underwriting guidelines, she would have known that the general contractor was not an eligible risk, because the guidelines specifically excluded any type of roofing business. Later, while the contractor was working on a roofing project, clear skies gave way to heavy rains. The rain moved in quickly and unexpectedly, pounding the roof and causing it to collapse, resulting in $75,000 in damages. The agent, who was relatively new to the insurance business, was under the impression that as long as the contractor performed at least one job that qualified them under a general liability policy, she was able to write the policy. Turns out, there were 75,000 reasons why that was not true. In the last example for this month, an agency producer sold a commercial property policy to a customer, classifying the risk as a clothing store. Soon after, the agency producer left the agency. 6 months later, the customer contacted the agency to add a second location to the existing property policy. The agent decided to handle the change himself, even though he was not very experienced with commercial lines policies. He added an endorsement to the policy for the second location. However, he failed to take one important step: the on-site inspection. 2 weeks later, the second location was burglarized. After the loss, the carrier determined that the risk was ineligible for 3 reasons. The building did not have a central burglar alarm. The building was built prior to 1955 and had not been renovated. And the business was not just a standard retail clothing store, but also sold second-hand merchandise. These issues would have been easily identified had the agent performed the on-site inspection as required by the underwriting guidelines. Furthermore, during the investigation, the agent explained that he had hired an agency producer specifically to handle commercial lines risks. A risky move, considering that the agent could not provide appropriate oversight, and once the agency producer left, there was no one at the office who had the experience to appropriately service the business. The insurance company paid the claim, but pursued an E&O claim against the agent. So here's what we've learned. When binding a policy, it is vital that you know and follow the carrier's underwriting guidelines. During initial meetings with customers, ask questions and take detailed notes about all business operations. Information such as services provided, vehicle types, geographical locations, and even the age of the building where the business is located can affect the eligibility of the risk. And because multiple individuals can be involved with the servicing of a policy, it's not just the agent who should be familiar with the underwriting guidelines. Licensed and appointed agency staff should also be trained as well. Finally, never skip the on-site inspection of the business if the underwriting guidelines require it. The inspection is often the best way to ensure that a risk is eligible for coverage under the policy you're binding. A little effort can save a lot of moolah and a huge hassle down the road. See you next time on The Amazing True Stories of Errors and Omissions. Click on the forward arrow to continue.